Okay, all this feeling of revolution comes to a head, comes to its peak in 1905. 1905, to give you a little background, Russia is done some industrialization. Remember we said they're top 5 in the world in mining and metallurgy, steel production, metalworking. Please remember, though, that they're not everything they think they are. And one of the countries they come into conflict with is Japan. Now, Japan, they go to war with Japan in 1905, and Japan beats them. This really hurts the Russian psyche. Imagine you think of yourself as this great, massive nation, and these 4 islands, this archipelago, out just off the east coast of Asia, kicks your butt. And it really gets people upset. So there's been all this revolution, and now revolutionary feeling. Now things explode in 1905. So what does the government do in response to this? Number one, they set up a Duma, which is a national parliament. The idea is that it will give greater representation to people. Unfortunately, they don't give as much representation as they should, and the Duma does not, in the long run, end up being a very powerful institution. They also try a series of reforms. Number one, they'll grant peasants freedom from redemption payments. Number two, they'll allow people to buy and sell more land more freely. This leads to what we call kulaks, which are minority enterprises, small guys, and these become rich landlords who will gain power through the system and will accumulate land. Eventually, though, the central government, by this case I mean the Tsar, the central government does regain his power. He will ignore Duma, and he will encourage police brutality against anybody who opposes him. So, get this picture. Please get this picture in your head. Russia has been becoming more and more revolutionary because of its problems in the 1800s. In 1905, revolution comes to Russia. Tsar makes compromises. Seems like a good idea. But while the Tsar makes these compromises, he doesn't really allow them to go forward. And so Duma becomes unimportant. They become without any power, and there's a return back towards this aristocracy. So you can guess what's coming after 1914 for Russia. All right, let's just look real quickly at Eastern Europe. What's going on there? Comparing Russia and Eastern Europe, both have monarchies with newly established parliaments, but those parliaments are pretty weak. The Duma in Russia and parliaments in the Eastern European nations are pretty inept. Not inept, that's probably not the right word because that means incompetent. They're just weak. They're just really, really weak. Landlords have extensive power. More so, believe it or not, in Eastern Europe than even Russia. So if you get a question, let's say you get an AP question and they talk about Eastern Europe, and you say, well, Mr. McKernan, you really didn't talk about Eastern Europe much. All you talked about was Russia. Well, Russia can count as your Eastern European example, as you're seeing here. Eastern Europe is even less industrialized than Russia, and far more dependent on selling their agricultural products to Western markets. In other words, most of the countries in Eastern Europe are dependent nations that are selling their products to Western, or agricultural products to Western nations. Though there is a strong nationalistic pride in Russia. You can see this through their dictionaries, their histories, their folk tales, and their music. There's really great pride and an opportunity to try to revive that. Okay, and that's true in Russia and Eastern Europe. All right, next we're going to look at Japan.